hard about this whole thing. Not just you, but everybody in the Big Ten and the commission. Tell us how this whole process is going.
Well, first of all, you have to understand this is a team sport in terms of how these decisions are arrived at. We have a commissioner who's got a staff, he's got a building full of people in Chicago. They work really hard on this stuff, and they have been given a fair amount of authority.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Highly overpaid.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, he's not here. Oh, he might see this.
Yes, he might see this.
That's all right. That's just me, David.
And then there are 11, now 12 athletic directors, all of whom have opinions and perspectives and constituents that they're trying to align and satisfy and make happy. And then you have to understand the presidents ultimately are the ones who make the key policy decisions, so they have a seat at the table, and to varying degrees, different presidents get more or less involved in some of these issues. So one of the things I found is this is very much a team support, and you've got to get consensus. And everybody's out there selling for what's the most important to them, but at some point you got to lock up and do something. Now, if Bo were here, and I've heard that a lot in the last few days, what would Bo say? You have to understand, Bo hated the idea that Penn State was allowed into the Big Ten. He hated it, he fought it, he thought it was a terrible idea. I love Bo, I owe a lot to Bo, I respect Bo immeasurably, but I can tell you that Big Ten is a much better conference right now because Penn State is in it. Bo would hate the idea that we let Nebraska into this conference. He would hate the idea that we're splitting into two divisions, and he would hate the idea that we're playing a championship game for the trip to the Rose Bowl as opposed to the way it's always been. And there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way. But what's interesting is my email box, basically when Nebraska was announced as the 12th team in the Big Ten, and then we were going to divide into divisions and we were going to play a championship game, the favorability reaction to that was like 99% to 1. People loved the big brand, Nebraska, great school. Everybody loved it. But what's happening now is the reality is setting in that you can't bring in a 12th team, you can't divide into two divisions, you can't incorporate a championship game without some changes occurring. Some compromises and changes are going to have to occur. And right now, everybody's out there trying to guess what those might be, and there's a lot of fear factor, and I get that. And until we can come out and say, here's the divisional alignment, here's the schedule, here's how this is going to work, and here's why we think this is the best for all the schools, for the conference, and for competition, until we can do that, you know, right now we're at the mercy of everybody out there who's spinning whatever story it is they want to spin.
Well, the story that's spinning in regards to Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Not being in the same division, therefore not playing the last game of the season traditionally. Now, you were on a radio show recently where they asked that question, and there was a long pause, as I understand it.
Yes.
So you want to pause again and repeat your answer, or are you going to tell us anything else?
No, I'm not going to say a whole lot else. The reality is that we are, as a fan base, going to have to prepare ourselves for some changes, because there are going to be some compromises in how this works. And I'll talk about the Ohio State-Michigan thing very specifically. One of the things that made that game so magical is that so many times that game came down to being the game that determined the Big Ten champion and who went to the Rose Bowl. That's what made that game really, really special. That can't happen anymore. Can't happen anymore. The game that's going to determine the championship of the Big Ten and who represents the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl is going to be the championship game. So you immediately are confronted with some choices and some dilemmas. Because if you put Michigan and Ohio State in the same division, then you'll play Michigan and Ohio State, but whoever wins that division will go off and play somebody else to see who wins the championship and goes to the Rose Bowl.
Now the question comes after that. Even if they're in different divisions, will they play each other every year?
Yes. Yes.
So they might play twice.
I would camp out in that building in Chicago and not leave before I would ever allow them in a situation where we would not play Ohio State. But because I have a real strong position about us playing Ohio State every year, and oh, by the way, I have a real strong position about us playing that team. Where did you live, grow up? East Lansing.
Those guys?
These protected rivalries are a real important thing. I want to make sure we play them, and we got to play them. And The big issue as it relates to all the fervor out there about this Ohio State deal is if we put Michigan and Ohio State in the same division, we will never play Ohio State for the championship in the Triple Rose Bowl again. That doesn't sound great to me. If we go into separate divisions, we have the opportunity, both schools, to earn the right to go to the championship game and play one another for all the marbles. That sounds attractive to me. So, but that requires that we go in 2 different divisions. If we go in 2 different divisions and we protect the rivalry, okay, which means we're going to play Ohio State every year, that puts us in a position where we will guarantee that we'll play that rivalry game. And in some years, when we play for all the marbles, we'll play Ohio State twice. That doesn't trouble me. There have been a few years I've wanted to play Ohio State twice. Okay? So that doesn't bother me. The problem is that if the game is positioned on the last game of the year, you run the risk in that scenario of playing 2 teams playing the same game within the same 7-day period. And truthfully, that's a problem for the fans, it's a lot of the fans, it's a problem for the networks, it's a problem for the league, it's a problem to create a lot of excitement around 2 teams playing the same, the same game, the same competition within a 7-day period. So I'm laying out for you the complexities and the things that are trying to get balanced and dealt with as part of this ultimate decision.
We're going to get to your questions out there in a second, okay? Because this will be the last question I ask Dave, and then we'll let all of you guys chime in if you have any interesting questions you'd like to ask Dave about athletics, about the University of Michigan, about the schedule, about expansion, or whatever. I want to channel Bo for just a couple seconds. Before we go on to the final question, I'm going to ask you, Bo would say, just look, don't let in that goddamn Notre Dame. Come on, tell me. He would have said that, right? Bo would have said that. Any response? Just don't let in that goddamn Notre Dame.
I had dinner, I was blessed to have a 3.5-hour dinner with Bo the night before he died. And it was a wonderful chance for me because I took that opportunity to thank him for all the things he's done for me. And we had a chance to talk about a lot of things. And what I will report to you is at the time this happened, I was 54 years old. I'm running a $6 billion company.
Did you buy?
I bought. And
he appreciated that. He had a streak going longer to measure.
What I want you to know is even in that set of circumstances, the man frightened me. I was still afraid of him. I was still worried he was going to fall out his whistle.
We all were. Yes. We all were.
And so I think a lot about how he would feel about a lot of these changes, and I think they come hard for traditionalists and people who, all of us. Hey, you and I were part of the Bo versus Woody 10-year war thing. We know it up close and personal. Bo knows it better than anybody. And the reality is, it's hard. It's hard to look at some of these things and say, maybe it's going to have to change. But we're in a completely different world.
That's where I wanted to go in my last question to you. Truthfully, a lot of this change is being driven by economics, is it not?
Yeah, I'm enamored when people say, well, some of these things are just being driven by money. Well, hell yes. Hell yes, they're being driven by money. These athletic programs around the country are going broke. You happen to be sitting on the campus of one of the few departments of athletics in the United States of America that isn't getting subsidized and being propped up by general funds or other means of financing, because these athletic programs are hanging by a thread. They're going broke, their facilities are crumbling, and look how blessed we are. And the reason we're blessed, the reason you're in this space, when you see this stadium, I think you're going to all be incredibly impressed. By the way, this is the same stadium that there were a lot of those people that were telling us we should never renovate, we should never change, because they always wanted to be the same. See how you feel after you go over there and walk through the stadium, whether you think what we did was a good thing. The reality is that we're in a situation where we're trying to leverage the assets we have to perpetuate the growth and the strength and the opportunity that we have as a department. And it's not about football. It's about the 27 sports. I have a capital list this long. Our rowing team needs a building. Our rowing team, our women's crew team, needs a piece of equipment that allows them to practice for competition inside a building. I gotta build that building. It's gonna cost billions of dollars.